Hi everyone, welcome to yet another training session on decisions. So today we'll be talking about the day-to-day operations in decisions, or what we call as monitoring outside of decisions. So in this session we will be basically be talking about what are the different things that we monitor and what are the things which actually enable the running of the decisions instance once decisions is installed. So let us jump into our decisions installed folder and go through the different folders in them. So this is the decisions installation folder and directory. So in this session, we'll go inside these folders here and see some of the most commonly used ones in our day-to-day usage of the decisions tool. So the decision server folder over here at the top is kind of the most important one. So I'll now walk you through that at the last. First we'll go ahead and see what this file storage folder is. So now if you upload a file in decisions, it gets stored in a couple of different ways. One is as a file storage in the database, which as you might know will grow our database. The second way is to put them in the actual application file server, and they get saved as something as what we call as file references. So this folder specifically are those files which gets saved as file references in decisions. Now, so that's basically this folder is about. The next is this install backup folder. So like the name suggests, this is where we get a number of different things that we use to back up about your install so that we don't overwrite existing data, like your web config files, your settings file, or your keys files, etc. So we store them in this install backup for you in an attempt to, if you ever need to revert or like roll back, we try to save off as much as we can. But as part of best practices, it is recommended to use manual backup behavior as well. Now the last folder over here is the decision server folder. So let's go ahead inside the decision server folder and see what's there in it. First folder inside the decision server folder is the bin directory. So let's go ahead inside that. So the bin directory is actually all of the loaded .NET framework or decisions underlining DLLs that run steps and everything in decisions. As you can see over here, there are different Microsoft DLLs that we use as part of everyday steps inside of decisions. So basically, these DLLs control the different steps and the workflow engine and parts of it in decisions. Now, occasionally, if you want to load your framework, load your framework DLLs, like maybe you have some custom code that references and uses specific DLLs provided by third party, you will need to load them in here in this bin directory. There is extreme documentation on that, and it will be covered in depth in the SDK session. So let's go back. The next folder is the customs module. So this is kind of for the same SDK portion. So if you want to write and have your own deployment of custom modules rather than use our inbuilt modules, you can put the modules in here and enable their install in the decisions portal. So as you can see over here, each of these modules comes with their own DLLs, their own SQL queries, etc. So that's basically the purpose of this particular folder. And then this images folder, these are basically some of the out of the box images or icons which you can use while creating your forms or dashboards. So to give you an example, let me just open this up. As you can see over here, this is kind of an image for a factory, which in case if you want to use in any of your forms or dashboards, you can just it will be available to you in the steps toolbox as an image uh, tool, and inside of that you will be able to select this images. So in case if you want to have your own custom images, you can come and upload them over here, and the same will be available to you inside of decisions whenever you use that. So the next major folder which we use is these instances folder. So this is mostly related to the multi-tenancy feature inside of decisions. Like in some installs of decisions, we actually segregate the data into individual tenants or instances, and these tenants have their own folder so that they are locked down and can be accessed by the other tenants. So now that I'm under this controls folder inside this instances main folder. So this control folder in the first case is the actual primary or main instance that everyone use. So as part of administration work, we actually don't interfere much with any of these folders in here, but couple of folders I would highlight over here is one is this exports folder. So whenever you try to export a project from the decisions installed, we actually do it as a file reference. So whatever items you wish to export will be taken and put it in a directory here, and then we will zip it up and allow the user to download it from the decisions UI. And these files also get generated in the appropriate project folder on the server, as you can see over here. So say for example, this was one of the projects that I have downloaded, that I have tried to export from my instance. So it has created a folder inside of here, and inside that you'll be able to see the different elements as part of my elements which I downloaded as part of the project. And the next one is this import folder. So as you might be knowing that we also have the option of importing projects to decisions. So this particular folder actually holds a record of all of the different projects that has been uploaded or imported into decisions. So I think that's basically it inside of this controls folder, and the rest of the things that they are mostly all related to the specific install of decisions. We actually don't do much of alterations or changes with any of them over here. So let me just go back. Now, the next one is this licensing folder. So if once you open it up, you will be able to see this decisions license utility application or file or folder, as you can call it. So what you have to do, what it does is once you run this as an administrator, it will generate a machine key for you, which you will have to send it across to support@decisions.com for getting the license key, which when received, you will be able to have the proper license for decisions. The next and the most important one inside of this is the logs folder. So let's go ahead and see the important ones inside of them. Now these logs over here are kind of the most important ones when it comes to monitoring outside of decisions is concerned. So this is where you actually maintain and see and monitor what's happening inside of decisions. The important files over here are the primary logs, which is nothing but a stack trace level of all the fatal messages and errors happening inside of decisions. It is basically used by the developers to get more details about the errors happening inside of decisions. So this is kind of an example of that. So since I recently installed my decisions instance, my log level, the file is pretty small, but then in a production environment, these file sizes can be pretty big. So now I'll also talk about how we can modify these logs in a minute, but couple of things I would like to highlight over here is that if ever the decision server crashes or restarts, we actually kind of roll back the logs over for every service restart. Also, we can control the size of these logs files. Say for example, in the log settings, which I will be showing you in a minute, we can actually specify the size of the log files as well as, and as soon as that as soon as the log file reaches reaches that threshold limit, a new file will be created. Also, we have the option of setting the number of such files which should be saved. So by default, the number of files which get saved is 10, and the size of each log file is set as 1 MB. But then you always have the option of going ahead and making those changes. So I will show how that is done in a minute. So these are kind of some of the archiving functionalities to prevent this directory from filling up obnoxiously. So the next file, which is kind of important over here, is the usage file. So it is actually, as you can see, it is stored as a CSV, and it shows the how much memory the decisions tool is using, what is the user count of people inside of the decisions tool, how much CPU, etc. So this file can be useful at times like when there is heavy load, etc. So that's basically the importance of this file. Now I'll quickly show you how we can actually make changes to our log settings. So there are a couple of ways of achieving that. One is through our decisions portal, wherein a person with administrator access can go ahead and make those changes in the decision studio. And the second one is via the log settings file, which is there inside the decisions install folder. So first I'll show you how we can make the changes in the log settings via the decision studio. So for that, I have logged in as an admin, and in the system section, under the system section and under this administration folder, you can go ahead to the systems tool, and under that there'll be this logging folder. So over here, these are all the reports of all the primary logs inside of decisions. So if you want to create a new log category, so you can go ahead over here. I'll explain once again. You can go ahead, right click over here on this logging folder and go ahead to this edit log settings, which will open up this window for me. And as you can see over here, you have the option of creating the new category of logs. You can select any one of them from this drop down, as well as you can set the levels for that particular category. And then as you can see over there, there is an option of named as log to own file. So what it does is, as soon as you create this, and say for example there is a very important flow for you, and if there is any errors which is happening in that flow, you want to track it separately, because like I explained it to you in the beginning, if that is not done, so if a new category is not created and it is not saved to a new file, what happens is it gets saved to your primary logs. And like I said, these primary logs in a production environment can be quite big, and to go ahead and track them might be a bit of a daunting task. So for that reason, maybe in some of the most critical flows, to give you an example, you might want to create your own category of logs, and log the errors and fatal messages to its own file, so that you can easily track them. So that's how you can create your own custom logs. So this is how it is done from the backend in via the decision studio. And the last thing over here is this advanced session. So if you remember, I mentioned to you that we can actually set the size of the log files, as well as the number of log files that needs to be backed up. So all these things are editable. You can make the settings over here. So this is how you do it from the decision studio. The other way to do it is to make the changes via the decisions installed folder. So for that, you have to go ahead to this file storage folder inside of decisions main folder, and go to the settings subfolder. And inside that, you will be able to see a file named as log.settings. So if you open it up, you will be able to add in the new category of log. So as you can see, there there is this log category, log category settings, the size, the max log max backup. All these settings can be made via this file as well. And the changes which you make over here, or if you add in new categories of logs, it will be what do you say? Replicated inside your decisions application as well. So these are kind of the two ways by which you can actually make changes to your logs. So let me go back to my decision server folder. So now that we have talked about logs, we have this modules folder. So this is actually the contains the details of all the different out of the box modules which has been installed inside of decisions. So as you can see over here, these are the different modules that I have installed. So by modules, what I meant is, I'll quickly showcase to you that. So features. Okay, let me go over here. My apps. If you go over here to this my apps module section, so this has already been explained in a couple of different sessions before. So these are the list of all the out of the box modules which decisions comes up with. So if you want to say, for example, if you want to use Jira or integrate with Jira, you can go ahead and install this Jira module, which will provide you with some custom steps which can be used for integrating with Jira, etc. So I have installed these many modules, and the same details you will be able to see it over here inside my modules folder. So, and inside each of them, it's basically the list of all the DLLs, the SQL queries, etc., which is related to running of that particular module inside of decisions. So that's basically what this module is used for. Now, the last thing which I want to talk about here is this settings.xml file. So let me just go ahead and open it up for you. So the settings.xml files are like the portal-wide global settings. So whatever changes or updates you make in here will actually impact how your decisions installed, run, or does stuff globally. So if you go ahead and let's go ahead and see a couple of things. So as you can see over here, we have the log file maximum size. So we can make the changes via the settings.xml file as well. You can make changes through for, say, for example, the maximum backup of logs. Then we have the settings for the SMTP server. Then say, for example, if you want to enable single sign-on SSO in decisions, you can go ahead and set this value as true. If you want to turn it off, you can. By default this would be false, but you can if you want to enable SSO inside of decisions, you can go ahead and change it to true. So all these different settings can be found over here in this settings.xml file. And once you make these necessary settings, what you have to do is you have to go ahead and restart your decisions server. So how you do that is go to your services, find your decisions server over here. Yeah, go ahead and restart it once you make the changes here, and the whatever changes has been made in the settings.xml file will be replicated or will come into effect in the decisions application. So this is kind of the important things which I wanted to discuss inside of the decisions installed folder. And yeah, one last thing that I want to talk about inside this decisions installed folder is about CSS. So for that, I'll go ahead inside this particular folder and go inside the styles folder. And as you can see, there is a list of default CSS files which decisions comes up with. You can add your own CSS over here to be used inside the decisions tool for styling your forms, dashboards, etc. Also, in case you want to make changes to the tool, say for example, let me quickly jump to my decisions instance. So say, for example, if you want to change this color of the Decision Studio, which is currently orange, or if you want to change the decisions logo in the decisions portal and customize it as per your requirement. And say, for example, if you want to change the login page, or change or customize your login page to the decisions application, it's all possible by using the by selecting the necessary CSS over here and making changes in them. So whatever changes you make over here will get will be enabled in decision. So that is one last thing which I wanted to talk about in this particular decisions installed folder. Now, for people who don't want to log into decisions but want to get some generic information about an install, there is a page called Decisions Health Check, the URL of which will be available to you in the documentation website. So as you can see over here, the health check page for a multi-tenant environment is different. Mine is not a multi-tenant environment, mine is a normal one. So I have used the normal URL. So what it does is it will give you some oversight into some of the basic information about decisions. So you can load memory details, which will display platform memory usage. You can load your database details, which displays table names, row counts, and size in MB. So this is basically helpful if if there is a need to free up some space. And then we have the file system detail section, which will display the file storage information. And then we have the web server details, which will show details about the .NET and Windows OS. And then over here at the bottom, we can simulate an outage. So this actually, as written over here, this will not cause any problems with your installation or service, but the only thing which will happen is it will cause this particular health check page to return a 550 server error for a number of seconds. So that's basically it. It's this particular page gives you some kind of oversight into some of the basic information about the decisions installed. So now the last thing which I want to talk about is about the decision server itself. So for that, I'll go ahead and open up my task manager. So 1 second. Let me reopen it again. Just give me a second. So what this does is it is going to provide us with all the different hardware metrics. So let's see how do each one of these metrics apply to an actual use case of decisions. So for that, I'll go and find my decision server over here. Where is my decision server? Yeah, I got it. So the first one is CPU usage. As you know, the flows that are loading information or storing data into a cache, those are going to use CPU. So if your CPU is high, you probably have a really long running flow that is taking a lot of power to run. So it needs a lot of computing power from the computer. So in order to run appropriately. So if you see this jump, your first inclination is going to be looking at running the workflows to see what is currently running on the system that could possibly be using that much power. The next one is memory. Now, decisions will try to use as little memory as possible, but then we also use memory as we want to make sure that things like navigation inside decisions folder and designers is super fast and flow runs efficiently when they have to when they have lots of data stored in them, etc. So the things you will want to look at if memory starts climbing is you'll want to look at your cache reports and the data that's stored inside the cache. So like what's the sort of things that are going to what's being stored, how much of it's being stored, and are we clearing the cache appropriately. So these are the sort of things that are going to that you would require to keep an eye on if your memory starts growing. Also, running flows, if you have a flow that is storing a huge amount of data as part of the running execution of the flow, memory could potentially climb up because it's putting it in that cache to try to keep it running that one flow smoothly. The next one is the disk. So if you are loading a ton of files onto the application server, your disk can start to potentially climb. So if you are using a lot of file references and storing, gigabytes worth of data, you are loading them into the portal and saving them, you may see your disk usage climb. So this is not typically something we have issues with, but potentially if you are doing a lot of file centric workflows, this disk usage might spike up. Next is the networks. Again, this is not typically something we have issues with again, but then if your use case uses a lot of internal or external services and you encounter some performance hits, you may want to check your network percentage to see if your bandwidth is appropriate for the workflows that you are doing. And then the last one is GPU. Yeah, you will never need this because the GPUs are never used for servers. And yeah, this is basically what I wanted to cover as part of this session on the day-to-day operations or monitoring outside of decisions, as part of monitoring outside of decisions. So I hope this session was useful to you. Thank you.